New York Times bestselling author Rachael Hollis.
Rachael Hollis.
Rachael Hollis.
And I was like, you're right. I'm super freaking privileged, but also I worked my ass off to have the money, to have someone come twice a week and clean my toilets. What is it about me that made you think I want to be relatable?
If you want something, if you have a passion in your heart, fire in your belly, it's gonna be you. It's gonna be you getting up early. It's gonna be you staying up late. It's gonna be you running the miles.
No, sis. Literally everything I do in my life is to live a life that most people can't relate to. Most people won't work this hard. Most people won't get up at 4 a.m. Most people won't fail publicly again and again just to reach the top of the mountain. Literally every woman I admire in history was unrelatable. If my life is relatable to most people, I'm doing it wrong.
Hi guys, Isabella here and welcome back to the channel. So today's video, we're finally diving into the well-known Rachael Hollis. So today's video, we're just doing a general deep dive about Rachael Hollis as she is connected to many things I talk about on my channel today. And I have a lot that I want to cover. I know many people have discussed Rachael Hollis previously and there's other great videos I will have tagged in the description below, but I wanted to kind of do my own take on it, do a little bit of an updated deep dive and add some additional information that I think is kind of good to consider. So, as you guys can tell by the introduction, Rachael Hollis is a very well-known individual for her books, for her motivational speaking, and for just being a relatable person. This has drawn thousands and thousands of people to listen to what she has to say, and while up front, many people were absolutely blown away by Rachael Hollis, there's a lot of darker stuff that I think we should talk about. To kind of keep it easy to follow, we're going to be going through several different topics with Rachael Hollis, starting off with her career history, and following what she completed or did in her career, then really dive into the details of the problematic issues within her career, then why I personally think that Rachael Hollis is still continuously a bad influence for other people, and why I personally don't recommend her to being a very great individual for advice, and then wrapping it up with additional details. So Rachael Hollis had this life motto that was self-created and pulled herself up by her bootstraps and became a success. So with her career history, she actually started off as an event planner at the very beginning. She did actually disclose that she didn't have a very good childhood, so that isn't something we're going to be highlighting very much of, but then actually transitioned into becoming more of a blogger with a company by the name of Chic Media. It was more mom and relatable mom content, which honestly started growing in popularity during this time. So this is still like very early in the 2010s, so again, this was starting to progress and social media was progressing more during this time as well. And finally, with the real kickoff of her career was in 2015, where she actually had a post that was very relatable to many people, talking about her in a bikini with stretch marks. Screenshot of this you guys can see right here, just pretty much depicting a relatable conversation about how she still wears a bikini, how her body has changed throughout the years due to children, and something that I think a lot of people could connect with. Again, this post actually went mega viral, so many people connected with it, which actually led to other people interviewing her, and so this is where things really took off.
The bikini-clad mom who's a viral sensation after daring to post a photo that showed off her stretch marks.
I had literally no idea what was gonna happen when I posted it.
Rachael Hollis is a busy mother of 3 who runs lifestyle blog The Chic Site. Excited to show off her new swimsuit while vacationing with her husband, Rachael posted this photo, acknowledging she's not picture perfect.
I saw my stretch marks right away, and I could have zoomed in so you didn't see them, but I thought, gosh, I've never seen anyone post that before.
The Los Angeles mom wrote, "I have stretch marks and I wear a bikini. I have a belly that's permanently flabby." The reaction was unbelievable.
She had news stations interviewing her, TV, and just other people discussing this topic, and this truly kicked off her career. And ever since then, she was known as a relatable mother figure and somebody who didn't have her life together but was still working through it, which at the time, that is something that so many people I think were looking for, and it was kind of a gap maybe in the social media world, and so having actual vulnerability shared I think was what a lot of people wanted. And with the start of it, I honestly think the start and creation was very innocent and it had good intent. So what she completed in her career, she actually started writing books. So there were several different books that she released, but the really big one was Girl Wash Your Face. That one was one that really genuinely took off and just held people captive. It became a New York Times bestseller. And then she followed it up with Girl Stop Apologizing, and then her divorce book that said Didn't See That One Coming, and many, many others. So she became a very well-known author with this. Like, she actually had so many books sold out out. People knew this book because it was, again, relatable, full of advice, and people were just eating it up. Currently, right now, I think we know that the age of self-development, self-growth, and relatability has really taken off on a different level. I don't think that it took off where it was a mom relatable way. I think this started really picking up because not much of this content was around as heavily as it is now. Then next, she actually kind of had a little bit of a company, I would say, where she started growing and developing. She had a team, like she had people that was helping her out with her career, which again, as you grow with being known and with fame, you are going to need people that help with like social media management, helping with managing your deals, your incoming jobs, and everything else in between. So she had a team that was progressing with her as well. So everything started just exploding. And then she hit a point where she actually was becoming a hired speaker. So this is something that I talk about with other videos on my channel, but if you're new here, I talk about multi-level marketing companies and other predatory businesses, scams, and creators. What's funny is multi-level marketing, just a little bit rundown, majority of people fail and don't make money in the company. There's a lot of other like details that are very, very wrong and misleading in these MLM companies. And MLM companies host these conferences where, in my opinion, these conferences are a way of keeping people in this predatory commercial cult system. And so that's when they invite motivational and emotional based speakers, hence why I believe Rachael Hollis was a great pick. She was relatable and she ran with this idea and concept that anything can happen and you can really get anywhere you want as long as you just simply work hard. And it honestly fit the mentality, I believe, of a lot of MLMs and MLM companies and participants, and I feel like it essentially she added to brainwashing. That's just my personal opinion.
Any part of my body, since 6 months ago, I don't even know. And now she's here with her hair, this perfect hair, and I'm still in sweatpants. And so all of a sudden, even though I had good intentions, and you guys have good intentions, you're like, man, I want to be a better leader. I want to build a stronger business. I want to grow my team. But instead of doing what might actually work, you go and look at her highlight reel to judge against your very real life. These two things cannot compete. Comparison is the death of joy.
Now, I think if you do look into companies that you partner with, then you are able to see. And just for me, looking into some of the MLM companies, I feel like for somebody and having management, she should have kind of paid attention to working with multi-level marketing companies. She was a speaker and made a lot of money off of these speaking situations. Apparently, she would literally pull in maybe $100,000 to $200,000 for these types of speaking and conferences. Like, that is insane. She honestly was like a woman version of Tony Robbins. You know what I mean? And again, that's another video for another day about him. That was my first thought, was when she talks about being relatable and helping women and empowering them, it sounded like very contradictory when she would take thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars from events and conferences that would actually, in my opinion, completely take them down and make them lose tons of money. So with that being said, again, her career was doing incredible. She was just such a successful individual. She hit a point where she was a perfect famous person. And sadly, that did not last very long. Now we're diving into some of the problematic issues with Rachael Hollis. So starting off strong, plagiarism. So again, Rachael is very known for posting inspirational quotes, inspirational, Instagram posts in general, and writing books. And with that, some people started noticing some heavy plagiarism. Like, take some of these examples up here about how she would pass off certain quotes as her own, which again is very wrong. And then to further this, an additional situation that happened, which was just absolutely horrible, is a quote that says, "I still rise." This actually was a quote by an individual of the name Maya Angelou. And apparently Rachael passed that off as her own quote when it wasn't. She was called out for that. With that being said, and with the calling out of plagiarism, there was some blaming on her team, which my personal belief on this is well, yes, you have a team, and well, yes, you can mess up. I still think as the face, you should take responsibility. Like, for example, if you were somebody that is a CEO of a company and you find out maybe like the HR department is actually horrible, well, maybe you might not have had a full hand in certain aspects of it. That is still your name and connected to you, and you do have some responsibility to fix it, get it done, and make sure it doesn't happen again. And I don't feel like that it was handled in a way that was very appropriate. I feel like the blame was simply reflected on other things. And here's my thing as well, is it kind of blows my mind how apparently in books though that this happened. So I don't just think that this was a team issue on social media. My personal belief is that this was something that she just did in general. Now, another thing I want to talk about is pushing a very toxic mentality for many different topics. And I feel like a very toxic mentality for women. As we know with our world today, there's been many pressures on women and how they should behave and believe and how they should function. And it has just been very toxic to where you have to weigh a certain amount or you have to look a specific way. No matter what, at the end of the day, I think we've come to realize that society is just flawed. No one can fit into the perfections or standards of society, because even the most richest people or the most beautiful models can't even fit those standards either. So it's very unrealistic. Having somebody who has more of a realistic and relatable standpoint was something that many people wanted. However, I personally believe that Rachael started taking this demographic that she knew would listen and started preaching things that were very wrong and were actually damaging still. And this is actually something I want to talk about in a future video, how self-development and self-help gurus are kind of hitting a new point where it's hitting a level of toxicity. So they're kind of hitting standards to where they can't even keep up with the set standards that they've even created themselves. And it becomes where it gives a level of toxicity. It honestly feeds into the patriarchy still, and it causes more problems at the end of the day. And one of those examples is hustle culture. Hustle culture is so toxic. And again, I've fallen into that trap. I know many people have. Hustle culture is a concept of working. And honestly, it's fed into this concept and ideology that if you aren't working all the time and working for your goals, then you're just simply a lazy person. The hustle culture has, again, extended to a level where it's unhealthy and to where people feel lazy for taking breaks and resting and not feeling like they have to have a side hustle. That's something that we've seen Rachael kind of feed into with this idea of always having to work for these crazy things, even though her audience level wasn't always people who want to maybe develop a multi-million-dollar company. There are people that maybe wanted to just have a better level of self-love in their life or security or maybe not feeling alone, something to a realistic standard. Now, we're going to be also diving into toxic advice. So there was a lot of advice that Rachael gives. She even still does that now on her podcast and YouTube channel.
If you want something, if you have a passion in your heart, fire in your belly, it's gonna be you. It's gonna be you getting up early. It's gonna be you staying up late. It's gonna be you running the miles and going to the gym and eating the kale and doing all the crap. It's only gonna be you.
Where there's a lot of advice given to many people. For example, somebody of what I wish I knew in my 20s, just other advice that's given in general. And again, I think it's great to share advice. I think it's awesome to be able to share your vulnerable personal experiences and help people not feel alone. But there also is a certain responsibility you hold while doing that. There's also certain levels of advice that can be very toxic. So we're gonna dive into the girl wash your face issues because this kind of connects to it. So for example, you and only you are ultimately responsible for who you become and how happy you are. Now I understand trying to grow with your happiness and having a certain level of control, but I feel like it's a very privileged mindset to have. For example, there are many people maybe who have struggles with mental illness. I, for one, have been going through major struggles, for example, where my depression has been hitting me stronger than it has before. And I think that's very privileged to say, well, you're in control of your happiness, when many people actually don't. There's also many people who are recovering from past traumas, which, if anything, Rachael should know since she has depicted a very hard childhood. There are people that have other struggles with other illnesses, family dynamics, and maybe being stuck in a toxic or abusive relationship. There's just many examples of that, and I feel like the concept of, well, you and only you are in control of your happiness, I feel like is a little bit out of touch with reality. Now, well, yes, I do know personally I can have an ounce of control. The world is happening. Bad things happen all the time, and that doesn't mean I have full control. I mean, if anything, I think most people don't always have full control. And I feel like the more that we acknowledge that, the more that we are not going to search this crazy level of perfection and also not feel guilty for not loving every aspect or not being happy with every inch of our life 24/7. We can be real. Now, there's a couple other quotes that was from an article that I will have linked in the description below. Now, this first quote says, the book Girl Wash Your Face caught an individual's eye at a local Target, and she found a few nuggets of inspiration in it. But she was turned off by what she saw as Hollis's constant push for bigger and more expensive things. She just comes off as a very incredibly tone-deaf individual. And that's actually something I wanted to talk about, whereas the relatability started diminishing with more money kicking in. Now, that's not to say that anyone who has more money can diminish relatability or not be a good person anymore. But however, that is a topic that I start seeing where people who gain quick success and push for relatability suddenly instantly develop into this, oh, well, you need to become a want more person instead of a you can be happy where you're at type person. And it starts losing any real connection with her audience. And I do agree with the tone deaf concept of thinking that you need to want more. I think the focus, if you want to be a relatable individual and if you want to make people not feel so alone, I don't think the push should be for perfection or bigger or better. It should be progress and feeling better as the person you are today. I think that should be more of a focus. Now, another quote I want to highlight is, for me, the point where it became really dangerous was when I noticed a fat shaming component to her platform, Moore said, which is an individual in this article. There's a lot of talking about being overweight is hindering you from achieving your dreams, or if you don't stick to your diet, then you are not a person of integrity. That shaming component is really harmful. Now, I fully agree with this. I think there is a very interesting aspect of Rachael where she's focused her advice to skinny white women.
Let's talk about one of the most messed up quotes from Rachael Hollis's book, Girl Wash Your Face and Trigger Warning Fat Phobia. Here she's talking about why you should stick to your diet no matter what. If you're gonna exercise and you said that you would, you have to literally no matter what. Then she talks about a hypothetical friend from work. What if that friend from work was constantly starting something new? Every 3 Mondays she announced a diet or goal and then 2 weeks later it just ended. What if you called her on it like, hey Pam, I thought you were doing Whole30. Meanwhile, Pam is sitting in the break room eating Meat Lover's Pizza and telling you that she was doing Whole30. Y'all, would you respect her? This woman who starts and stops over and over again? Would you count on Pam? The idea that somebody is only as trustworthy as they are addicted to dieting is one of the most effed up things I've ever heard in my life. And honestly, this idea that your morality and trustworthiness and value and goodness is based on your diet and your exercise is the basis of most eating disorders. Rachael Hollis is truly dangerous and she should not have put out this book.
There was actually a quote that I read from Rachael Hollis that was saying something about, well, I mean, if you don't keep up with your diet, then how can I trust you as a friend? Saying as if I look at my best friend and if she's not keeping up with her diet and exercise, then she's not trustworthy or a good person to be involved with. That's actually very disgusting. And if anything, I've had many times where friends or even myself has struggled with things and we can't keep up because life happens and we're there for each other and we support each other in all walks of life. Especially another thing that really irks me is, yes, the level of fat shaming. Having to be completely super skinny does not mean that you're healthy, and thinking that that is the ultimate level of health and success is also very, very wrong, dangerous, and disgusting. This type of advice is what actually makes audience members who want to find someone that they can connect with feel shamed and uncomfortable. And it's very wrong, because when Rachael's put herself on this pedestal as someone who can give advice, be relatable, and make you feel inspired, that is not inspiring to people. It is making them hate their bodies more or hate who they are more. And that's exactly why I truly think that there is a level of self-development or help gurus that hit a level where it's actually hindering people and harming people more in the progress. Now, here are some other hot takes that I wanted to share, and these are some other TikTokers or other people who have posted as well that I thought was really, really great. So I will play these clips for you so that you can see other problems that we're noticing with Rachael.
I just want to trigger warn what I'm about to say. I'm going to read a direct quote from Rachael Hollis's 2018 book, Girl Wash Your Face, and I want to disclaim that this does not reflect the views of Celebrity Memoir Book Club or me. I'm about to say something really fucked up, but it's a direct quote from this book, okay? I'll work out tomorrow became I'm not working out anytime soon, because honestly, if you really cared about that commitment, you'd do it when you said you would. What if you had a friend who constantly flaked on you? What if every other time you made plans, she decided not to show up? What if she gave lame excuses? Then she goes on to say that she wouldn't trust a friend who breaks their diet. Essentially, the advice in Rachael Hollis's book is that diet and exercise is the most important thing you can do for yourself, and everything else is like based upon your commitment to diet and exercise. The advice in her book is essentially what the worst part of your brain is telling you when you're actively suffering from an eating disorder. So I kind of feel bad for even putting this on the internet, but I feel like I disclaimed it well enough. If you don't feel like working out today, fucking don't. Fuck you, Rachael Hollis.
So Rachael Hollis popped up, and this is the video that she posted.
Okay, yesterday I was doing a live stream and I mentioned that there's a sweet woman who comes to my house twice a week and cleans. She's my house cleaner. She cleans the toilets. Someone commented and said, "You are privileged AF." And I was like, you're right. I'm super freaking privileged, but also I worked my ass off to have the money to have someone come twice a week and clean my toilets. And I told her that, and then she said, "Well, you're unrelatable." What is it about me that made you think I want to be relatable? No, sis, literally everything I do in my life is to live a life that most people can't relate to. Most people won't work this hard. Most people won't get up at 4 a.m. Most people won't fail publicly again and again just to reach the top of the mountain. Literally, every woman I admire in history was unrelatable. If my life is relatable to most people, I'm doing it wrong.
So this video, again, her caption is what also caused more problems. One, I don't like her demeanor with how she's talking about people that are helping you out or helping her out in her home. I just felt like it was very degrading and distasteful. Again, I don't see it as inherently wrong to hire people to help you out with certain things, but again, I think it's about your manner and your respect and how you are that really does change things. And I don't feel like the way that she was vocalizing that was very respectful. Additionally, I think the way that she approached her conversation of not being relatable was so ridiculous, considering that is literally how she was able to grow and gain success from her books to appearances to social media posts. Everything she posted and shared was, I'm trying to be relatable to you and make you feel normal.
It's Rach here. This is the Rachael Hollis podcast. I'll be your host, your friend, your sister, your confidant, your advice columnist. I'll basically be anything you need me to be except your mom, because I already have 4 kids and they're a lot of work.
And so it was just absolutely disgusting that she thought that that was so funny and such a good idea. But really was the cherry on top was the caption where she had the audacity to compare herself to people like Harriet Tubman. What world is that okay and normal? I literally, I don't even know where to begin on that, because I can't believe how someone can be that tone deaf to think that that is a normal statement to make. Comparing yourself, a white woman, compares to Harriet Tubman. I'm sorry, what? Then she came out with this statement, an apology, and I'm sorry. With all the other things that she has wrote in her books, even, to me, it feels like this is a concept and perspective that she has engraved in her mind, where she has herself on this pedestal mentally. She can give you advice, but she can retract the relatable tag that she puts on herself because it doesn't fit what she wants to create that day. Now, the next thing I want to talk about, oh my goodness, relationship husband stuff. Okay, so Rachael was actually married to an individual by the name of Dave Hollis, and they actually went on and on about marriage and relatability. It was a lot watching some of their content, but again, they pushed this concept about who they were. And with that, they wanted to host, this is so bad, they wanted to host a retreat for couples.
We're throwing a couples conference.
We're having a couples conference!
Yes, we are.
Rise together.
Rise
Stay
together.
with me. Rise
together.
Because you're rising
Rise
together.
Rise together.
Together.
Brother and sister.
Okay, can you sit at a normal thing? How are you feeling? What are you thinking? How's life?
I'm excited. About to change our whole dang life.
And here's why. Because you guys have asked for it. What you're thinking is, oh, I didn't know that you guys were you were counselors or therapists, that you had special training in order to guide other couples. We don't.
We don't.
We don't have that ability. How long have we been married? 13 years?
13 years. My phone
You can't
beat.
even shut off your volume?
I didn't know what happened.
I mean, the quality of our videos.
Sorry.
We decided years ago that we didn't want to have a good marriage. We didn't even want to have a great marriage. We wanted to have an exceptional marriage.
Here's what we're going to talk
Here's what we're
about.
going to talk about. Sex. I thought we were doing that together.
Here's what we're going to talk about.
Sex. Finances. You do something. Children.
Communication.
Don't go too long, because he's going to cut this into pieces, and then we'll be on stage and we'll be talking to them.
You get to watch me be corrected for the entirety of this entire conference.
You explain for a really long time.
You're going to have drinks.
Make out.
Buy a pool. Make out.
This was around, from what reports are saying, it was around 1,800 for a couples retreat. But this was a conference called Rise Together that was supposed to help grow relationships. It was supposed to help give, I believe, more advice and just to kind of connect with your partner again with additional help from Rachael and Dave. Now, literally, Rachael actually vocalized that she had no qualifications to do that, which I fully agree was something as sensitive as relationship advice. You can give relationship advice, I think, freely, but charging that much and having something like that was just a little problematic. And not to mention too, some of the previous relationship topics that she's discussed with her and her husband, and even the experiences that she's had with her and her husband, did not sound healthy from the get-go, since she did actually, I think she got married at around 18 or 19 years old. So not the best person to actually, have conversations with in regard to relationships. But that was another thing that she did. She was running with this way of connecting with people, helping them out, being relatable. Like, she was covering all of these bases. And then finally, her and her husband got into a divorce. So then that completely disappeared, and then came out her book called I Didn't See That Coming. One last issue that I would like to highlight some of the issues of Rachael Hollis is her toxic positivity. Now, this is something I have covered many times. Toxic positivity is the over positive beliefs and thoughts no matter what. Honestly, disregards any other emotions outside of like happiness and joy as bad. And that's also a big issue that I have, is being sad or angry or uncomfortable with something is not inherently bad. In fact, what I've learned is emotions are very, very good, and you need to experience the full range of emotions in order to be a healthy person and to navigate through life. But the toxic positivity and the absolute disregard for systematic issues as well is something that's very uncomfortable to me, just looking into what Rachael has done. For example, again, overly positive perspectives, which are making other individuals who read it think that they need to be happy in order to be successful or good in their life, and you need to make yourself happy, is not normal. Another thing too is she actually has this very well-known phrase that says something along the lines of, you say that anyone can kind of pull themselves up by the bootstraps and go. That's just not true for everyone, and I disagree. Now, this is a quote from an article, but that's what she says is, you know, pulling yourself up by your bootstraps and anything can happen. And I feel like this kind of connects to the concept of the American dream, where if you work really, really hard, then anything can happen and you can have that wonderful life that is pushed to you since the day you were born. And I don't agree with that. Systematic racism is a thing. And there are many, many things that many people that I will never experience simply because I am a white woman, and I think it is very important to acknowledge that. So the next main topic that we're going to be discussing is why I believe Rachael is kind of a bad influence for inspiration and relatability. And so the first topic would be relationship advice that actually is not very healthy. So Rachael actually had a podcast with her husband where they talked about relationship stuff, progress, and just advice in general. But one thing I wanted to highlight is that there was a topic that was discussed in some of these episodes of this podcast that was actually really alarming. So this first quote that actually was pulled from an article says, "But I also learned that you should be careful to not spend too much time or breath telling your partner to prioritize better, especially if you are a woman who is with a man. Women," Rachael says in the very first episode, "should not nag and not be a shrew." I might get into trouble for using that word. "Toward men who don't want to develop themselves, just model." So I think the first part of that is a little bit interesting to me, because I know that there's many times where women are portrayed as nagging or being really weird when they're just simply asking for some help or assistance. So that kind of rubs me the wrong way when we immediately label women as nagging when we're just asking for equal effort. There's a lot that I could say about that as well. Instead, you should not say a darn thing to them about whatever you're doing, which again, if it's a partnership, shouldn't you be able to talk about your problems and, you know, healthily communicate and power through that? You know? Yeah? Okay. Then let's talk about Sex Baby, which was episode 7 during August of 2018. Rachael reiterates this idea that men cannot be talked into anything. Don't give notes, give praise. The answer for how to communicate with a male partner, whether for relationship improvement or sexual satisfaction, seems to be for a woman to hop onto that Peloton, crack open a journal, and wait like a hunter who sets a trap and then retreats behind a tree, watching for a bumbling animal to come along. I do not like this at all, because when we teach women to just, or anyone for that matter, to just sit there and not feel like that they can vocalize what they want and need from a partner, that is very dangerous. For example, I know many people who, even including myself, were degraded and talked down to for simply vocalizing what they truly needed, and it was basic needs in a relationship. And I feel like that's such a huge problem, is so many people feel like they can't vocalize their issues in relationships. And if somebody is that upset with you that you're trying to just communicate your basic needs, I think that's a them problem, because everyone should both be able to go back and forth and discuss equally what they need and what maybe they can improve on, and that's not wrong. But you see, this is the kind of stuff that I'm talking about that's not healthy. And with this type of conversation or topics being discussed on her and her husband podcast, it makes me think that things like the retreat wasn't actually a very healthy or helpful or supportive thing to be doing for other couples. Now, another thing I want to discuss as well that really rubbed me wrong is recently Rachel's actually going to be going on this tour. Rach Talk Live is what it's called. Now she's going all across the country and selling tickets for this. Now those tickets can range from like $27 to maybe like $200 something. That's like a VIP package where you can meet her, take photos and everything. So interesting enough, I think the idea of motivational speakers and paying to go to them is just very odd to me. I don't know why you would pay to do a talk live. And again, I understand meet and greets, but a part of me thinks that with what she's doing, is she's, again, it's more motivational, it's advice, it's relatable conversations. I think that's already what she gives with her podcast, or that's what so many other people all over on social media give, is relatable advice. And I don't think it's really necessary to charge in order to get basic information or motivational speaking that anyone could do. And if anything, I feel like it would make even more sense to talk about doing a series and hosting on your YouTube channel, because I know her YouTube channel is monetized. She could have some good financial benefits from it, while at the same time not charging anyone anything for advice that I feel like anyone can find. Another topic is the blatant love for women who are white, skinny, and privileged. Your feminism is not true feminism if it is only supporting white women. That's it, okay? That's not true feminism. That's not true supporting girls. That's none of that at all. And I think it's really gross when we label the concept of feminism, or her being quote unquote maybe more of a feminist, when maybe her only message or support for that matter is directed to a very specific demographic. And that's, to me, I think it speaks volumes about her character, and that's why I think just anyone in general shouldn't support people who are like that, because it's not truly actually a woman for another woman. I think that there are many other people that we could support that are incredible and beautiful motivational speakers that are relatable, that are wonderful. But what I want to say is there's a lot of people that you can support that have nothing to do with Rachael and have actual good intentions in mind. So overall, my last thing with Rachael Hollis is I do believe that people can redeem themselves. I do think people can grow and change. I think a lot of people can learn about the world that we live in. And that's always what I want, is for people to grow and change and become better. But when the habits and everything are still happening, it doesn't give me the energy that there's any sort of change whatsoever. And some of the things that I've specifically read from Rachael, some of the things that she's still making money off of, the advice that she still gives, I do not feel like this is an individual that should be trusted. And I feel like this is also a great opportunity to just kind of bring awareness to the fact that not every person that's on the internet that preaches this self-help or relatability always has your best interest at heart and is actually a good person to listen to. That was my little deep dive on Rachael Hollis. There's a lot of problematic things I feel like with this person, but I also think it's very good to bring awareness, considering that there's still things happening now with her. So that was it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys in the next video. Stay glowing, my beautiful queens. Love you. Bye.